From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DBIC, the Primetime Capper. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. It is time for the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles. And let's go ahead and jump into the news that we have to start off the show. And man, it happened like literally 5 minutes as soon as we wrap the show up, 5 minutes into that, or maybe about an hour. So let's not exaggerate it that much. But it's on. Arizona State, and Utah all are headed to the Big 12. OMG. Literally, the Big 12 was damn near out of business 2 years ago. They didn't know what they were going to do. They truly did not know what they were going to do. The day that Texas and Oklahoma said, "We leaving," the Big 12 literally said, "How are we going to be able to move on as a conference?" Now they're sitting here with literally the last laugh right now. They have now 16 teams that will be playing in their conference in the 2024 season. Unbelievable. They added in 4 teams from the Pac-12. They've added in 4 teams from the AAC. So pretty much have made themselves a super conference without knowing they were going to be a super conference. But the Big 12, it's not about football. It's not. It's about basketball. Because this is the best basketball conference in America. Everybody knows that. And literally everybody, they might have one of the better recruiting pools of anybody in the nation as well, too. If you see the players that actually wind up at the schools in the Big 12, they're absolutely NBA-ready guys. But everybody knows that football is king, so football is always going to have the biggest spotlight. It's that simple. But Arizona splitting up from the Pac-12, they lose their basketball rivalry with UCLA, but not really. They just lose the 2 games a year. They'll probably still hook up for a game every year and everything like that. But it's going to be sad not to see Arizona and UCLA play each other in that ultimate college basketball rivalry that these teams have. Arizona State didn't really have a rival. Their rival was Arizona. So they're going with their rival to the next conference. And literally Arizona State and Arizona have rolled like that literally the whole time. Utah is actually kind of going home because people have to remember Utah was an original member of the Big 8, but they left. And they were original member of the Pac-12. They were in a conference with Arizona, Oregon, and Washington all at one point back in the day before UCLA, all of them were together. So Utah is literally on a reunion, and Utah doesn't lose their rivalry with Colorado at all. They still have Colorado as their rival. So this is really huge because what it does is it does bring the conference a little bit more, I would say, parity. Now you will split it up. You're going to have 8 teams in 2 divisions. You have the South and the North, it seems like, or the West and the East. But we know that most likely they'll probably put all the Texas schools with the West Coast schools. That's Colorado, Utah, Arizona State. And then all the AAC schools and teams that are towards that way are all going to come together on that side. It makes sense. It makes total sense right now that's how it's going to work. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. So pretty much it's sad to see that the Pac-12 has to cease to exist for this to happen. They still have 4 teams left. And from what everything's looking like they're going to take those 4 teams and they're pretty much going to say, hey, Mountain West, come on over and we're about to come together as a conference. So we're going to take your 12 teams that you already have up there, or 10 or whatever they have, and we're going to add in our 4. And it was funny because somebody said that the Pac-12 said take everybody but Oregon State and Washington State. I don't believe that for a minute. Like, you literally said, let's keep both the teams that are almost irrelevant to the conference, and then you can take everybody else. Okay, so pretty much, it's getting really funny. But the Pac-12 just pretty much is throwing up the white flag now, and it's over. But I think the Pac-12 will probably have its greatest season ever because it's the end. Seriously. And when you look at it, this is a decade. This was a decade in the making. The Pac-12 never really did what you were supposed to do when you're changing with the times. They never changed with the times. They always thought tradition was going to win out. Tradition's going to win out, and they would get a TV deal. But it comes down to it that they probably were the least watched conference when they were on regular networks. Their games come on way too late. Even though I love watching the Pac-12, 8 o'clock, 8:30 games, those are even late for the West Coast. Okay, so pretty much with that, the Pac-12, it was a fun ride, but it's over now. And it's just, I'm not surprised by anything anymore. I'm just not. You know what I mean? Because we've lost so many great things. We thought we were never going to lose the Big East, the basketball conference. And we wound up losing the Big East, you know what I mean, as a football conference. And then it had to reassemble itself as a basketball conference. So pretty much, never say never, but it's always a possibility, as they like to say. But let's move on to our next topic, and that's going to be this. Let's talk about the Saints looking to dominate the NFC South right now. Will Carr show critics that he is a true franchise QB? Well, Derek Carr has a lot to prove because, they pretty much said that he was through in Vegas. They pretty much said that he was the sole reason why they couldn't move forward and be a great team. And he was the reason why they lost games that they were up 20 points in or 3 touchdowns in or 10 points in. And he's the whole reason why. Everything was Derek Carr's fault. Even though Derek doesn't play defense, even though Derek doesn't play special teams, even though Derek's not the one rushing the quarterback, even though Derek's not the one covering receivers, it was all Derek Carr's fault because he was the quarterback and he's the star of the team. Well, the Raiders were an absolute joke last year, and they're even bigger joke this year. So Derek Carr doing what he did to the Raiders was justified, and getting out the way that he did was justified because if anybody loved playing for the Raiders, it was him. And pretty much the way that he was shunned by Mark Davis and McDaniels and Ziegler and all these guys that swore that Derek Carr was going to be their future and be the guy that was going to take the Raiders to the Super Bowl, and they had his back, blase. And, he even got paid. They gave him a great extension that was very team friendly, and it seemed like that everything was good to go for the next 5 years. But it didn't work out like that. Mark Davis started listening to outside critics and pretty much made the decision to let them go ahead and bench Derek Carr right in the middle, right at the end of the season where it was kind of a 50-50 shot that the Raiders could continue on and possibly make the playoffs. But they pretty much said that we're done with this. After the Pittsburgh game, they wrapped it up on Derek Carr. And that loss alone was never Derek Carr's fault, but they had to find somebody to blame, and the blame has to go on the quarterback. That's the new NFL now. If everything is going wrong, the first person that gets the blame is the quarterback. Even if the quarterback's out there throwing for 4,500 yards, 32 touchdowns, only had 10 picks, and the team winds up finishing up 6-11, it's all on the quarterback. The quarterback ruined everything. The quarterback's the biggest reason why we can't win these games. That's the new narrative. That's the new mantra in the NFL. So when you're a quarterback, just know if you're not winning games, even if you have the stats to show that you're a great quarterback, it doesn't matter. You're the reason why they're losing games, even though that is not the case. But we're just going to go ahead and be lazy about it. And we're going to just say that, pretty much it's the quarterback's fault. And it's truly not the quarterback's fault. A lot of these teams are being led by bad coaches, and it's really starting to become very obvious that that's the case. And Derek Carr is another guy who was led by bad coaches over pretty much his whole tenure. He had one good time with coaches, and that's when he had Jack Del Rio and when he had Bill Musgrove as his offensive coordinator. But Mark Davis's refusal to have patience has ruined his team and has ruined his relationships with guys who loved his team. So right now, Derek Carr is trying to put this team in position that he could never get with the Raiders. Let's just keep it real. He could never be in the position to win a divisional title. The year that they were in play to win a divisional title, Derek Carr got hurt at the end of the season. Now he's with the team where that's the expectation. They are the favorite to win this division this year. Derek Carr is very positive about his new receiver core. He's very positive about his new defense, and he also has a running game as well too. But at the end of the day, Derek Carr is still Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a really good quarterback. I won't say great, but I know that Derek Carr has his little moments where he overthinks things a little bit. He's with the group now where he doesn't have to overthink so much. And you pretty much just have it to where it's a make or break situation for Derek Carr and for his coach, Dennis, for their coach as well too. And Dennis Allen. And pretty much, you have this situation where it's going to be a very, very, what have you done for me lately type situation for the Saints. The Saints are in a position where they're supposed to be a good team. Anything other than finishing up 10-7 is going to be a failure for this team at the end of the day. And that's all they need to win the division at the end of it, for real, is 10-7, 11-6. But this is still going to be one of the tougher divisions when it comes to playing defense. Derek Carr hasn't had to play against this many good defenses in a division literally ever. So pretty much, you can't discount the Bucs defense, even though they're going to be on the field a lot. You can't discount the Carolina defense, and you can't discount the Atlanta defense either. So that's what you think of when you think of this year's NFC South. It's going to be a defensive-led division. So with that, they have a strong chance winning the division, yes, but people do have to understand this is a wide open division. And when I do my preview, I'm going to surprise you guys a little bit with the actual winner that I have for this division as well too. So with that, let's go ahead and move forward and talk about our next topic in hand, and that's going to be AJ and Whyte is off, but Carr may go on as promoters look for last-minute replacement. So once again, Dylan Whyte has been popped with a steroid situation or HGH, just up in there just cheating as usual. And pretty much the guy is like a fifth-time offender, but it doesn't matter. It's in England. If it was America, he would have literally get blackballed from the game. You probably won't hear from him for a good 4 or 5 years. Then he's down fighting somewhere in, like, I don't know, where was what's his name fighting at? Somewhere in Uruguay or something of that nature. And it just was absolute. He's fighting a guy who's like 450 pounds. Yes, Big Baby. And Big Baby's now working his way back into the scene, but he had to start all the way from the bottom again once he was, officially seen as a guy who could pass a damn steroid test. So now you have Dylan Whyte, a guy who's been caught before, and it's just really sad that this guy keeps getting opportunities while you have other heavyweights that totally keep getting overlooked and passed up because of guys like this. And I just truly feel that this is a very, very telling situation of how the politics in boxing truly are. and it's something that has to be fixed. Guys like Dylan Whyte should not still be getting high-end $1 million fights. It just does not matter. And once again, Anthony Joshua has to deal with somebody not being prepared for a fight that they begged for. Like literally, Dylan Whyte begged for this fight and was willing to come in here dirty so he could get the ulterior advantage to beat Anthony Joshua. That's absolutely despicable when you think about it. And I think that guys like that, they have to be taken out the game. I always say, you know what? Hey, they all got to use something. They all on something when they wanted the best. It's kind of like obvious, right? But if they don't get caught, they don't get caught. But this guy keeps getting caught. That's the whole thing. And we know it's a dirty game, and we know what happens in a dirty game. But this guy, it's just like you keep getting caught. And why do we keep rewarding you with big fights? Guys like this should not be anywhere near big fights. And that just ruins the whole idea of what boxing truly is. You know what I mean? You're supposed to be fair, concise. You're supposed to be a gentleman first. You know what I mean? In the sweet science. You're supposed to be honorable in the sweet science. And this guy's none of that. So what's the point of still having him around? You have Anthony Joshua, a guy who's going through some mental things as well. He on his third trainer now in the last 3 years with Derrick James, and this is their second fight together. And he's looking to get himself back in the title group. He can't fight Usyk again because he already lost to Usyk twice. So he's really waiting on Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury's kind of bullshitting with time by fighting a UFC guy, and that's kind of pissing off everybody. But, all in all, Anthony Joshua is looking to get himself a good fight in so then he can show that he still has it. And I think that bringing in a stiff, I hate to say it like that, but bringing in a stiff, a warm body wouldn't be too bad. And when I saw Hasim Rahman Jr. was a possible candidate, I was like, this is perfect for AJ because, yeah, it's not what people want to see, but if you are into highlight reel knockouts and if you're into fights that will build up a guy's confidence, that's the fight. That's the fight. See, all these little matchmakers and all these internet people think they know best, but in reality, when you're a top tier fighter, sometimes you need those type of fights in a tune-up situation so you know that you're still a terror. I know that it kind of takes away from your actual progression and actually moving up, but AJ's already been a champion. AJ's already achieved everything that you need to achieve in this game. Sometimes you got to have fights like this so you can just stay busy. And that's all he really needs is to stay busy. So everybody who wants him to fight Joe Frazier Reborn and all these other people, just shut up. Because at the end of the day, you want to watch Anthony Joshua win a fight against a nobody. You don't want to put him in there with somebody that's going to be, Rocky Balboa or somebody like that who's going to have a big story after surviving. Surviving has became a new way of winning in boxing. No offense to Amanda Serrano and Heather Hardy, but I felt that was kind of a cheap ass way for y'all to make some money. That woman wasn't going to beat you, but what you did was you fought her so she could make herself some money. Now, if this would have been the guys and they would have been doing something like this, everybody would have questioned it. Everybody would have been pissed off about it. Everybody would have had so many complaints about it. So y'all have to understand that boxing has to really fix itself more than anything. But we got to stop saying that. We just got to go ahead and enjoy what they put in front of us because that's what they can afford to do. It's that simple. But all in all, AJ is a guy that we have to pretty much protect. We have to make sure that he's fighting great. He is ready-made fights so he can keep the aura of the great heavyweight story that he has going. And I feel like he is going to get his titles back for the third time. But it's just when. And I feel like the biggest fight in the heavyweight division is Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. And they are getting closer and closer to making this fight happen. And that's what makes this so exciting as well, too. So let's move forward and let's quickly talk about Boots Ennis. Boots is ready for the big fights. The time for fringe opponents has ran its course. And I feel that. I feel that a lot of people are very quick to say Boots ain't ready. As soon as he fought Crawford, it's Boots ain't ready. Oh my God, you can't just put Boots in there with Crawford like that. And 2 weeks ago, they said that Crawford was dog food for Boots. Spence was dog food for Boots. After he fought against Villa in Philadelphia, everybody was ready to give Boots every single title that was won by Crawford last Saturday. And now all of a sudden, oh no, it's too much for him. It's too much for him. The guy is 33 fights in. When is it going to be enough for him? When is it going to be the time for him to get his opportunity to show us that he's an elite boxer? See, you can't protect these guys. These guys don't even want you to protect them. Boots wants these fights. And the funny thing about it is fans are saying that they don't want Boots to fight Crawford. So you guys are complaining about protecting somebody, about these guys protecting their O's, but you're the one trying to protect their O. It doesn't make any sense. These guys have lost before in life. It doesn't matter. Nobody's undefeated in life, period. So them losing one little fight, that's not going to tell the story of their career. It's not. So Boots has done everything correctly. Boots went ahead and applied to the IBF to get the mandatory fight. So there is no, is Boots ready or not ready? He's the number one contender in the IBF. Of course he's ready. What kind of BS is that? You guys are just doing this because you don't want Crawford to fight your favorites. You don't want him to humiliate people like he did Errol Spence. But the thing is, though, it's his time right now. So if you're in the way of his time, you're just going to be a casualty of war. But you're still going to get respected at the end of the day because this is an upper echelon fighter. This is a first ballot Hall of Famer. This is a guy that has cemented the rest of his career. Bud Crawford don't have to win another fight in his life, and he's still going to be in the Hall of Fame first ballot. So you're not going to change anything that you're not going to change any of Bud's history. So what's the point of babysitting a guy that you've been talking about for the last 4 years about him being this super duper fighter and this guy that can take on the world? How will we ever know if he never does it? You can't keep, this man don't want you holding his hand. This man doesn't want to be babysat. This man feels ready for Bud Crawford. So let's make it happen. It's that simple. Boots, Bud, I would say that fight is probably one that we will get, if not later on in the year, early in 2024. I think that fight, they have to be on the phone talking about the fight. They're about to be getting into purse bids, all types of stuff. Yes, it doesn't sell the same way as Crawford and Spence, but at the end of the day, though, who cares? Bud Crawford has become a worldwide star. It doesn't matter if he fights me next week. You're all going to show up. You're all going to talk about it. So it does not matter. He has reached the level of, it don't matter who he fight. We're going to tune in because we want to see what Bud's going to do, or we want to see if Bud's going to get beat. It's that simple. So let's stop the babysitting and let's go ahead and get back to boxing business. Y'all have to understand, when the best fight the best, there's going to be feelings hurt, but you shouldn't have so many feelings invested in men that you don't know. So it is what it is at the end of the day. I know both of these guys personally, and I know that they're both very big-time competitors, and I know how much they both want this fight because guys want to fight the best. Guys don't want to just be fighting to fight, fighting to survive. That is for the bums. That's for the gatekeepers. That's for the has-beens. But for the elite guys, they want it all. And we should not be denying them of it all. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. And when I get back, we're going to jump into some baseball. because it was a wild and crazy weekend in the MLB, and we got some teams that are sitting right there in the playoff picture that were nowhere near the playoff picture 3 weeks ago. So you guys stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, and I'll be right back at you.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners, and I'll have another in Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune in to Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube.
All right, we're back with the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper. Let's go ahead and jump into the Dodgers and the Padres. And the Dodgers and the Padres find themselves in a good position right now, where the Dodgers have actually moved up 4 games in the division right now. So as the caption reads on Blue Crew Daily, Dodgers looking to win series outright with rare Monday matinee game at Padres. Dodgers extend lead in the West over the weekend. And I say this because the Dodgers actually first pitch is going down in the next 40 minutes or so. So pretty much that's what you have, is that the Dodgers are still moving, chugging along, and they find themselves still 10 games ahead of the Padres, even though the Padres general manager said, I still think we got a shot. Yeah, I think dude's been drinking a bit too many cervezas or too many of those frothy iced down margaritas that they have down the street over there in the gas lamp district. I don't know what they're doing, but San Diego ain't got no shot, man. San Diego better just think about what's going on next season. Yeah, they scored a lot of runs. They've blown out teams and everything like that, plus 69 run differential, but they're still a 55 and 57 team. This is absolutely dreadful. And they find themselves 10 games out. Arizona, once again, had a horrible weekend this weekend. They wound up getting swept, and they lost their last 6. They have not won a game in the month of August. They are 0-6, so they've dropped the last 6 in a row, got swept by San Francisco. That wasn't needed, and find themselves 8.5 games back. This team at one point was 5.5 games up over the Dodgers and the Giants. Now they find themselves 8.5 games back. This team is actually under 500 since the month of May as well too. This team has slowly regressed back into being exactly who we knew they would be. But as I told everybody before the season started, with 30 teams in 30 days, Arizona would be improved. They could get more wins than they did last year. But being better than third place probably wasn't going to happen, and that's exactly where they're at right now. So pretty much the Dodgers are making themselves very, very comfortable with their new additions, because they didn't totally get a total overhaul, but Ryan Yarbrough did an excellent job on Saturday. Even though they lost that game, they got blew up late in that game, but still he pitched his butt off. And I think that even Dave Roberts knows that he should have let him finish that inning regardless of anything. But Yarbrough did show that he's another lefty that's going to be very, very reliable moving forward for this team in the playoff stretch. And also you have Ahmed Rosario, who's playing great baseball right now, who's showing that he's a very good addition from Cleveland, and he's somebody that they're very excited about having at this point. So I think that when everything's all said and done, the Dodgers are in position to be the number 2 seed because nobody's catching the Braves. The Braves have had a good little run this year and everything like that. So I think with that, the Dodgers and Braves NLCS could be an absolute classic because it looks like that's where we're headed at this point right now. So the Dodgers today, it's very important that they win today just to win, because you want to show the Padres that we're going to be the reason why you don't make the playoffs. And literally, that's why it's like, just go ahead and win. Don't do them any favors. Just go ahead and win. And they are three games out of the last wild card spot at this point. If they were to lose today, they'd probably be 4 games outside of the wild card spot. But they're right on the heels of the Arizona Diamondbacks. And that's where it gets a little embarrassing for Arizona. It's like, dude, y'all were at one point was the number 1 team in the National League, and y'all have fallen all the way down to the 3rd team out of the playoffs. And the Cubs have even caught up with you, and the Cubs were hapless for a while. But it is what it is at the end of the day. So pretty much we move forward. Let's go ahead and jump into our next topic, and that's going to be MLB Monday Night. We got ourselves 12 games going on today, and with the Dodgers kicking it off at 1 o'clock in the matinee in San Diego, a rare 4-game series that started on a Friday. So they went Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, which is kind of a new thing in the MLB. You usually only do that if you're playing with teams that have rainouts and things like that. So this was kind of like a de facto way to do a double hitter without doing a double hitter. You know what I mean? They had a Sunday night game yesterday, and usually a series is over after a Sunday night game, but they circle it back for today at 1 o'clock. So that should be a lot of fun. The Dodgers have already got their 2 games into the series, but like I said before, they need to win the series. Now, when I look at the playoffs on the AL side going in, you have Baltimore, who's the number 1. You have Texas, who's the number 2. They're sitting 4 games behind Baltimore at this point. Baltimore 70 wins on the season. We're only 9 wins away from cashing our first ticket on teams that are on the over-under wins list, because I had them at over 78.5. They're sitting at 70 games right now, so that looks like a shoo-in for us to get. That's going to be the first one. Minnesota sitting at 59-54. They finally have a good enough record to say that, you know what, we would still beat some. We won't get beat by somebody in the East, because Boston and the Yankees have a record that's very comparable to Minnesota. Like, literally, they would be in a chase right now if they were in that division. Tampa Bay is actually struggling kind of mightily now. They're 4.5 games back. And they're finally not tied in the win column as well, too, because they kept having identical wins, but 3 losses. 3 more losses than Baltimore. Now they're officially behind Baltimore, and they're 4.5 games back. So that's kind of tricky in itself, but they're still in the playoffs. Then you have Houston, who's actually a game back in their division, and they are sitting here. As I keep saying, they're on the way. That's all the Rangers need to know. And then you have Toronto sitting here after sweeping Boston this weekend, finding themselves with the final playoff spot. And Seattle, in a very important series with the Angels, wound up sweeping them 4 in a row. They find themselves on the outside looking in. They're the first. They're 2.5 games out of the wild card spot. So that's how the AL was looking going into today. And then, as I said before, you got Atlanta, LA, and Milwaukee leading the National League. San Francisco, number 1 wild card team. Philadelphia, number 2 wild card team. Cincinnati is tied right now with the Cubs for that final spot, but they lead by a game because they're 59-55, while the Cubs are 58-54. So they're deadlocked, but if the tiebreaker was to go down, it would be the Cubs. And Miami, 58-55, very important game tonight, a very important series versus the Rays. And I already talked about Arizona and San Diego kind of falling apart. And as I told you guys before, Pittsburgh has went 30-54 since starting the season 20-7. So there that goes. So pretty much with that, Let's go ahead and jump into our first game, and that's going to be the Marlins and the Reds. And this one is going to be a pretty good game tonight. We got the Marlins coming in here 58-55. You have the Reds 59-55. And this should be a game that has a lot of different turns to it. You got Yuri Perez pitching today, the phenom for the Marlins. They're phenom. You know, everybody got a pitching phenom down there in the farm. And then you have, for the Reds today, you have a very good pitcher in Brandon Williamson. So this should be a pretty good game. Where I'm going to go with this one, though, is I'm going to be a little little cool here. I'm going to take the under 10.5 with the Marlins and the Reds. I feel like it's going to be some good pitching going on in this spot today. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about our next game, which is going to be this one. It's going to be the White Sox and the Yankees. The Yankees are in a position where they have to win. They're 58-54 to the White Sox 45-68. The White Sox, the White Sox need to feel a little bit more hyphy, man, because they got embarrassed this weekend when it came to physicality. When it came to winning the actual games, they swept the Guardians, but they lost a big melee on Saturday because Tim Anderson literally got sent to the upper room with a right hand from Jose Ramirez after they got into a scuffle over a slide. He slid into second base, Ramirez, and he didn't like the way that Tim Anderson tagged him. So when he got up, they were talking a little trash to each other. The next thing you know, Anderson initiates some things, and he throws a punch. He lands the punch. He throws a little something. And then a teammate comes over trying to hold back Ramirez and literally swings Ramirez into Tim Anderson's jaw. You know what I mean? Right hand, swings it into you, right hand, cocked, throwing your right hand, and it lands flush on the chin of Tim Anderson. Tim Anderson goes down and literally did not know where he was at for the next 10 minutes. But he wanted to really scrap with Ramirez. But they got the last laugh. It doesn't matter. They won the series this weekend. They swept the series. And the Guardians needed to win the series. And they got swept. I know, because we had them on the series prices at -220, and they got swept. But let's go ahead and break down the game. You got Garrett Cole on the mound tonight. Dylan Cease on the mound tonight. This is going to be a pitcher's duel in a sense. And you know that it seems like every time Cole's on the mound, the Yankees bats struggle. I'm not going to say the Yankees lose, but once again, they're going to make this game too close for comfort. So I like the White Sox with the +1.5. We're getting -20 on that. And let's go ahead and move forward from there. All right, we have the Giants and the Angels tonight. Everybody remembers the Giants and the Angels from 2002, one of the greatest World Series ever played. The Angels made one of the greatest comebacks ever in a World Series as well, too. Seemed like everything was all done for this team in Game 7, but then they came back around in Game 6, and then they came back around and had the inning of innings and found themselves in a Game 7 and won that series. And you know what? They took Barry Bonds' only World Series opportunity away from him. We all were ready to give Barry that trophy. Like, literally, we were all ready to give Barry that trophy Game 6. Because when the Giants went up by like 4 or 5 runs, it was like, okay, this one's over. Go get the trophies ready. The Angels tried, but, you know, they just bums. And, no, they wasn't having none of that. Scott Spezio, John Figgins, they wasn't having none of that. And pretty much one of the best World Series runs you'll ever see. The Angels cemented that with the Game 7 win. And I think the Angels, believe it or not, as a lifelong Dodger fan, lifelong watcher of the Dodgers, I would say the Angels' one title might have been bigger than any title the Dodgers ever won because in LA. Because the simple fact is nobody expected the Angels to ever win a title. And then when they won the title, it felt a little different because the Angels weren't a team that moved to Los Angeles like most teams. They were a team that was actually created in Los Angeles by a Hollywood star, Gene Autry. So them playing in Anaheim, Disney owning the team, it kind of had a good storyline behind it. Like, you can make a movie about the Angels 2002 season, like a real movie about the season. You know what I mean? So with that, in the game tonight, though, I'm going to go ahead and take the Angels with the even money home favorite. I know they just got swept this weekend, but they got to bounce back. And this is a bounce back type game. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. But that's where we're going with the Giants and the Angels today. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take one more commercial break. And when I get back, we're going to jump into Talking Tickets. So you guys stay tuned. This is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only.
Now you and your friends can compete in the sport of kings and win big with Stable Duel. Get the app, pick your horses, and get in on the thrill of horse racing with daily games competing against other players. Bring home the glory and the cash and move up the annual leaderboard while you leave your competition in the dust. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
All right. Let's move forward. Man, that sucks. Yaqub Talib. That's Talib's brother, Yaqub Talib, who played in the NFL. His brother just got sentenced to 37 years in prison. Wow. Damn, all over a kid's football game. Like, sometimes you know that you're the richer person here. Why don't you just go ahead and let him win? Just let him have that moment. But you know what? We can't talk about things in past tense. It happened. It's over. It's done with. And you know what? Hopefully that family has some type of relief today that the murderer of their loved one has been, prosecuted and put in jail for a fair amount, a long time. But you know what? Nobody wins in this situation at all. A kid loses his father. Both kids lose fathers, and it's going to put a big stain on these kids moving forward, and their love of the game and love of football and things like that probably got shattered that day as well too. So, it's sad all the way around. So we're just going to leave it with that. You know what I mean? So, all right, let's go ahead and talk these tickets. And up first, we have ourselves the MLB Series Bets. And up first, we got the Reds and the Marlins. Like I said before, this is going to be a good series. I like the Reds to win this series because this is a very important series. And I'll keep it real with you. The Marlins had a nice little run there in June and July and the end of May where it looked like they were, really May and June. And it looked like that they were a team of destiny somewhat, but that's because they were playing really good baseball due to trying to keep up with the Braves. And the Braves have the best record in baseball. So they did a great job of having some good pitches, some timely hitting at that moment. But now the real Marlins are kind of showing up right now. And we know that this team was not really a team anybody had pegged for the playoffs. So the Reds know that this is a very, very must-win series. So we'll see how it goes, see how it shakes out. And we're getting plus money at home with the Reds as well, too. So that's always fun. And then we have the Twins in their series against Detroit. Detroit actually has had their number this year. The White Sox as well, too. The Twins have struggled against division foes this year, except for the Royals. The Royals have been kind of like good practice, good sparring partner for the Twins. But the Tigers have been tough on them all year long. The Tigers, that's why the Tigers are still kind of in the race a little bit, but they're out of it some way already. But still, they keep pace because they keep making the Twins really play. So pretty much, I still like the Twins to win this series this time around because this team is red hot. They just got done sweeping the Diamondbacks. So I feel like they can go into this series and win 2 out of 3 real quick, and we move forward from there. Then we have the Cubs going against the Mets. Very important series for the Cubs this week because they're going against a really Mets team that's kind of just throwing up the white flag, and they really don't care about how they finish up the season anymore. They've already pretty much, said we're done. They've sent both their top pitchers packing. They sent some really good role players packing as well too, and they've collected their farmhands, their future somewhat. So pretty much they're not worried about much, but the Cubs can't let that get to them though, because at the same time they still want to win baseball games. Guys still want to be on the team next year, so they got to show up. Then you got the Yankees and the White Sox. This is a fun series, but this is a series that the Yankees really can't blow. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Astros. They went 2-2 against the Astros this weekend, but still, they need to get in this series and they need to win this series so they can stay afloat and get themselves to the promised land, and that's back to the playoffs. And also the Angels, we have -125. They're going against the Giants. This is a must win for both teams this week, but the Angels need it more than anything. They lost 6 in a row, and they truly do need to go ahead and take care of their business while they're at home. They had a really good run going into August, and then when they made their trade, they were very confident that this team could move forward and make the playoffs. Now they're sitting in a position where they're 7 games out of the wild card. They got to get to winning, and they got to get to winning now. This series is probably the most important series of the season because if they wind up losing, if they wind up getting swept again, just go ahead and call it a year. That's for real. And I hate to do that to a team at this point of the year because you still got 2 months, but let's just keep it real. It'll be a wrap on the season. And then the A's, I'm shooting for them to get the upset, and we'll go from there. You know what I mean? Plus 300. Just trying to get an upset over the Rangers because I think we can catch them slipping. Nephew said you got some props. Well, show them. Send them out before the show's over. If not, then the people just missed the props. But we got the 82-1 pick 6, and then we got the under 10.5 Marlins and Reds. We got the over 9 with the Braves and the Pirates today. We also have the Red Sox plus 105 with the -1.5. We also have the Rockies plus 195 today as our dog of the day. And then we have the White Sox plus 1.5 to keep that game close with the -120. And then we finish up with the Angels plus 100 today at home as a skinny home dog, Chihuahua. So with that, that's going to be our show. Nephew, I didn't get the props yet. If you're still there, but all good. Have them ready for us tomorrow, champ. But all in all, I want to thank you guys very much for tuning in today. You guys are the absolute best. There is no me without you. And as I always say, bet with your head, not with your heart. The movement is moving. And this is the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper. I am gone.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.